Hello, welcome to our next conversation in Youth America Grand Prix Ask the Expert series. We are honored to have with us Michael Vernon. He is the chair of the Ballet Department at Indiana State University, and we are today going to speak about one question that we get asked actually almost every time we interact with our participants, and that is, what are the options that are available to dancers who would like to continue dancing but also wish to get a degree at college or university, and who better than Michael to answer these questions. And thank you for taking the time to join us. And before we begin, I think it's very important that we try to thank our sponsors, because without them, Youth America Grand Prix could not do what we do to help all the dancers around the world achieve their dreams. So our sponsors are Block, Capizio, Chacot Freed, Dance Media, the publishers of Dance Magazine, Point Magazine, and Dance Spirit Magazine, Discount Dance Supply, Euritard, Gaynor Minden, Grishko, Harlequin Floors, Russian Point, and Sacha. So one more thing I wanted to remind our viewers as you're tuning in live from all around the world. At this point, if you would like to ask questions for Michael, you can type your questions in the comments to the live session. But also in the future, for future sessions, you can actually ask questions in advance to make sure that we include them in our session. And those you can send to ask@yagp.org. Ask@yagp.org. So, Michael,
yes,
you have been teaching dance at a university for how long?
This is my 12th year.
12 years.
Yes.
You've seen it all.
Yes, I have. Yeah.
And you've been a judge with Youth America Grand Prix for a while.
Yes, which has been great the last 4 or 5 years. Yeah, it's been a great experience and a wonderful way to see dancers and to be able to interact with them, especially the ones who are interested in higher education.
And so the most important question, we'll start, questions will start coming in a second, but before we even dive into the particulars, is it really a choice? Do dancers have to choose between their passion of dancing and getting a degree?
Absolutely not. The perception of universities has changed a lot in the last few years, and now we have a number of universities which have really excellent dance programs, ballet programs and contemporary ballet programs, and they're designed to fit in with getting a degree in an academic subject. So, for example, at our university, the dancers will do academics at 8, 9, 10, and then our ballet day starts at 11:30 with class, and then in the afternoon we have more classes, men's partnering, point variations, and then rehearsals till 5:30, and then the dancers go back and do their academics after 5:30. The university stays open till about 10. So it is very possible to combine both, to get a really first-rate education, which seems to be very important now, especially for young women, and also get a really good ballet training.
Well, yeah, because so your university is Indiana State University.
It is Indiana University.
Indiana University, yes. No state. And so are there other programs just in the United States that you would single out as worth dancers' attention as they consider different regions in the country?
Oh, absolutely. And I would like to say right now that each program is slightly different. So each university ballet program or contemporary dance program offers a different slant, a different choice for the dancer. So there is North Carolina School of the Arts, there is the Kaufman School in as part of UCLA, there's the University of Utah, there's the University of Arizona in Tucson, and there's Juilliard, of course, which is slanted towards the contemporary. So there are a number of programs, and I think it's really important for the dancer who's interested in higher education to do research, to find out exactly what the slant of each particular program is. And one of the best ways is, of course, is to go to the campus. You really can't beat an on-site visit to really get a feel for the teaching, for the faculty, for the other students, for the level of technique, which I can assure you is very, very high these days. In a way, it's very similar to being in a second company.
So that's actually one of the questions. But before we get to this next question, how do we, like, dancers visit campus? How do they visit? Do they like sort of sit in on classes? Do they try to take with the classes? Is that something that usually universities will allow?
Well, I think every university has their own regulations. And so we're part of the School of Music, and the School of Music has mandated that while classes can be audited, incoming dancers or dancers who are interested in auditioning are not allowed to take class, mainly for liability reasons. But what they're more than free to do is to watch class, as many as they like, to watch rehearsals, to talk to the students. We have something that's called shadowing, where an incoming and interested future dancer will follow one of the majors around who's already in the program and just get a real taste for what their day is like. They will shadow them to academic classes and sit with them in their ballet classes, and it's definitely the best way to do it. And the other thing a dancer who's interested in higher education needs to do is also look at the faculty, because by looking at the faculty you'll immediately understand the style of dance which is being taught.
Right, because some, as you say, some are more geared towards classical training, some are more contemporary dance, and so it also depends on ultimately your goals as a dancer.
Absolutely.
And what you would like to end up doing when you finally, if you decide to join a professional career.
And I should say that even the programs which are slanted towards contemporary dance, they have excellent ballet programs, because I think everyone is agreed these days that to be a really good contemporary dancer, you've got to be a really good ballet dancer at the same time.
Right. And how early should people start looking into these programs and start visiting campuses and universities?
Well, I think most probably when they're sophomores at high school, 14, 15, and what a number of universities have done, including our own, is to have a summer intensive. And our summer intensive and other universities are geared so that it's not a very long program, because we understand that dancers want to go off to a big company summer. And so it's like just 2 or 3 weeks and you get a feel for being on campus, for getting to know the faculty, for getting to know the style of classical ballet that is being taught there, because as we all know, there's many different aspects to classical ballet itself, and a lot of universities will have slightly different approaches.
Mm-hmm. And it's great when your parents are supportive and when they are behind your choices, but what would you say to those dancers who want to get a degree and go to university, but their parents just are dead against it? What would you say to those young men and women?
Could you just say ask me
Well,
again?
the question was, if your parents don't support your decision, your desire to go to a university where you can continue dancing and get a degree, what would your advice be to those dancers or parents?
Well, I would really like to talk to those sort of parents, because I think it is just so remarkable that nowadays we have dancers of such a high level, and they've spent already so much of their life training, and they want to get a degree that they shouldn't be able to continue to dance at that very high level, performing in some excellent repertoire and get an education at the same time. So I must say it's happened in the past. There's actually a father of a young man who is now in a very well-known, established company doing leading roles. And when he got into university, when he got into my program, his father asked me, so my boy's just going to dance around all day? And I said, no, of course not. He's going to get a wonderful education. He's a very smart young man, and he's going to go far in the world of ballet. And I was right. And he's in his 20s, and he has a degree. So if anything happens, or when he's 40 and he wants to retire, he's got a degree and he can do what he needs to do with it.
Right, because a professional dance career does end, at a certain point,
Right.
depending on how lucky you are, if you don't get injured before,
Right.
and so it gives you options for after.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the questions that just came in online is that the idea of mentoring, because in a company, say if you're a trainee, usually what happens is that a dancer, an older, more experienced dancer might sort of take a young dancer under their wing. Sometimes companies actually assign somebody to do that.
Right.
Does that happen in college and university programs?
Oh, absolutely. And of all the directors of ballet programs in university that I know all of them take a great interest individually in their dancers. And not only do we mentor them, but we try and steer them to the right sort of ballet company or contemporary company that they would have the most success with. Plus, we help them through, the trials and tribulations of academics. And also, most freshmen are away from home for such a long period of time for the first time. So we're very nurturing for this, situation, and we're really understanding, and we just try and make the major's life as easy as possible.
Right, so because that is an important aspect of it, and also just one of the distinctions that just occurred to me is that if you're in a specific company, then you have just options within that company.
Right.
If you're with a university program, that then can help mentor you not just during the 4 years, but also after, like recommend you to companies or support you in other ways.
Right, and so in a way it's healthier for a dancer to be in a university program, especially for people who maybe haven't built up the confidence yet in their own dancing, which, nowadays at 17 and 18, it doesn't have to be a set rule you have to join a company at 17 or 18. And in fact, I know this to be true, that certain directors are really happy to have dancers who are a little bit older, who are a little bit more responsible, and who are educated, so that they make better dancers.
Right.
And yes, so I think that the mentoring aspect is very important.
Well, you did mention going to university versus being a trainee.
Right.
And so there's a specific question that came in: is a college ballet program better than accepting a traineeship with a company?
That's a very good question, and I think that it's really very individual. It's definitely on a case-by-case basis. Some dancers are just ready if they come from a big academy, for example, and they've been groomed for a company since they were very young. Then maybe they should take a traineeship if they really feel that that's the right thing for them. But there's a lot of dancers who I just said who at 17 and 18, maybe they've been injured and they've missed a few months when they were younger, or they really want to get an education, it's really important to them, or their parents do, or they just don't feel ready for a company, because company can be very pressurizing for a younger person. So that's exactly the sort of person who needs to make the decision to go to a university program where they'll get great training. And of course, most university programs that I mentioned take great care with the repertoire that the dancers perform. And this is another thing. So a dancer, because we have no guest artists, for example, so our dancers dance the Sugar Plum and the Cavalier and the Snow Queen and the lead in Concerto Barocco or Martha Graham or Twyla Tharp, whichever ballet that we happen to do. And it's the same with the other universities. So they come out of it not just with great training, but with actually more experience than a dancer who would have gone to a trainee program and maybe is in the corps de ballet for a couple of years and maybe learns another part but never gets to do it because of the way that ballet companies have a hierarchy.
Right, so basically if you're generally in a company, it may be many, many years before you would get to perform those roles, but at colleges and universities you get to do all those lead roles.
And then you have that experience, then you go to audition, and you have that experience and confidence within you. So you keep it, you don't necessarily, you draw on it at times of pressure, like an audition.
Right.
And you just keep your cool, and it becomes very positive aspect of having been to a university.
Right, because one of the questions, I can't quite see who it comes from, but one of the questions that we just got is, would you recommend getting a degree prior to entering a company, or maybe at the end of one's career? You know, so there are two ways of doing this.
Oh, I think that's a really good question, and without doubt, in my mind and my experience, I think it is so much easier for a dancer to get a degree at the very beginning of their career, in fact before their career starts,
Right.
because you're getting great ballet training, and most of the day is spent in the studio, and so it's easy to get your academics too, because you know you're focused on ballet and it doesn't seem quite so much hard work. I would imagine, like, I'm trying to remember how it was when my career stopped. I think it would have been like nearly impossible certainly to go back to college. Nowadays, of course, you can do online courses,
Right.
but it's so much better to
Right.
do, I think, psychologically, to even 2 or 3 years at a university, and then you can always finish 1 or 2 courses online.
Right.
And all the universities have academic advisors who help you through the process and tell you which subjects are easy to do, you know, which subjects don't have such a time conflict.
Well, that was actually one of the other questions that we got is, you know, if you, especially some of the hardcore teachers that say if you're doing dance, you
Right.
must do dance all the way. If you're doing, you know, academics, you really should let nothing distract
Right,
you.
right.
So if you're trying to do both dance, which is
Right.
a very specific thing, and academics, you know, does one or the other suffer? Or how do they complement each other? How do they affect each other? Dance and academics.
Well, I have to say that dancers basically are very smart. I'm sure you agree with that. So I think that they apply themselves to their academics. After the first year, they choose subjects that they're really interested in. A lot of them do related sort of subjects like arts administration or journalism or the very beginnings of physical therapy. And they certainly, a lot of them get their Pilates certification. And then they come to ballet, and well, I know I can only speak for myself. You know, it's like my whole career that as a teacher, I expect them to dance as professionally as possible. And also, you know, in every class, I talk to them about, well, you know, if you do this at an audition or that, they certainly won't choose you. Or if you do this at an audition, that's just the right thing to do. Step forward, dance with confidence. So we guide them from the very first day through their university time.
Well, and you mentioned also the performing opportunities
Right.
at the university.
Right.
For example, you get lead roles where you wouldn't get them in a company, but in
Absolutely,
a
yeah.
college program you would. And one of the questions we got is, specifically at Indiana University, what are the performing opportunities that exist at your institution? And what other institutions would you say, would you maybe recommend as those with really good performing opportunities?
Well, I think most universities have good performing opportunities. We are very lucky at Indiana University, which is one of the reasons that I decided to leave, you know, my teaching and go to the university, was that we're part of a school of music, the Jacob School of Music. So that entails that we have live music for every single performance, for every single ballet. Even if we have a jazz score, we just did the Robbins New York Export Opus Jazz, which is especially Robbins commissioned the score specially. We had it played live. It's very unusual. Even the Robbins Foundation was surprised, of course, pleased. So the dancers get not just the ballets, but they get the experience of performing with live music. We have a stage that is 1 foot less wide than the Metropolitan Opera House. So it's really great conditions. Wow. We have a 70-piece orchestra for the Nutcracker with singers in the pit for, you know, the snow scene.
That's great.
Yes, and I think that they really get a really good experience of learning about ballet, because to me the repertoire is very important.
Well, but what other? Okay, so you're very lucky. You have this amazing stage. You have the live music. But what other? And we get that a lot. What other? You know, say in different regions of the country, what other schools or universities or colleges would you recommend that offer especially exciting performing opportunities?
Well, definitely North Carolina School of the Arts, the University of North Carolina School of the Arts. They have great performing opportunities too. We have 3 sets of performances a year. We have the fall ballet, we have Nutcracker, and then the spring ballet. And I think that most of the universities that I talked about have a similar sort of structure, a similar sort of time schedule. I think most universities put on the Nutcracker. It's really interesting. Right now in Indiana, there's no professional company which puts on the Nutcracker, so ours is very popular. There's another school in Indianapolis, Butler University. They have a Nutcracker too, I must say, but they also have a very good program. That's a program that I would definitely recommend. I know that the Kaufman School has a very extensive performing schedule, and they also do really interesting things for choreographers who are interested in working in media, in movies, in commercials. They have special studios and courses for that, so I would highly recommend that.
Okay. So basically, also you were saying that part of it is also doing your research. For example, if you know a specific company or a style of dancing that you would like, then performing opportunities would have to fall in that in that style. Well, let's talk about auditioning for university programs. How does it work in general, and specifically, how does it work at Indiana University?
Well, I think in general, because university ballet programs are becoming so popular, so we have a lot of people auditioning. I think most universities have a lot of people auditioning, and in order to make it a little bit more logistically possible, we have a pre-screening program. And some people are a little bit put off by this, but actually what it does is we just ask the dancer to make a short video with very few exercises at the bar and just a few in the center, the women on point. And what it does, it lets us see whether this person has the right personality for our program, is the right fit, is the right fit for the style, because we're very American and very athletic. That's always sort of been my philosophy with IU. And then we have an affiliation, through Patricia McBride and Jean-Pierre Bonfou, who were at Indiana before me, and Violette Verdi, the famous ballerina, also from, excuse me, New York City Ballet. So we have a very American.
And right, because the auditioning process, this is a great thing that you said about the video audition, because, and I love that you said that you can see the personality of the dancer just even through the few exercises at the bar. So do video auditions then become very important?
Yes, I think so. And so if the dancer isn't right for our department, we can stop them from coming and spending the money and the time.
Right. So it's not, in contrast to some of the other, popular beliefs, that the universities kind of just will take anybody. In fact, universities are selective in terms of who they choose for their programs, and you don't want to waste your time or the time of the dancers. So you do have to have some degree of talent and determination.
Definitely. And we're lucky because we can be selective. So we have a large number of applicants. And even with the pre-selection process, we have 3 auditions a year. And then in addition, we allow dancers to come for an ad hoc audition. An ad hoc audition is where they make an appointment outside the regular hours, if you like, and they just come and take class.
Also, just one of the questions that just came in was about a double major. Is it feasible to do a double major, and what sort of a time commitment and a sort of investment does it take on behalf of a
Well, of course, it takes more of a time investment on the part of the dancer.
Is it possible though?
But it's very possible, and that's one thing where an academic advisor would come in very useful. So you talk to her, you talk to our academic advisor, and she will guide the dancer exactly into what is possible. Some things are just not possible. For example, if you want to do a science, if you want to become a doctor, because the labs are so long and they're all in the afternoon. They're like 3 hours long, so it doesn't work. But you can do like pre-nursing and stay in Indiana for the summer. Now, you know, dancers love to go away for the summer and study, or we have a lot of our majors, our RAs with major summer intensives all over the country. So that's one point that they might have to sacrifice, and they would have to do academics in the summer.
So basically, don't try to do be a rocket scientist and do a double major, but it is possible to do double majors if you if it's something that you can physically manage. Well, another question, again, specifically about Indiana's Indiana University dance degree, does it include music courses as well? Because this particular poster is interested in their son applying. He's currently a junior in high school.
Well, that's a very interesting point. In fact, because we're part of the School of Music, so everyone has to study music. They have to. So, of course,
you can't be a dancer without being a musician
of
first.
course. I mean, I have to say, you know, I studied piano since I was 4 or 5. So, not that I'm a good pianist, but it gave me a real understanding of music and phrasing. So, I think it's a great idea for our dancers to study, and some of them, of course, have never studied an instrument before. So, they choose interesting instruments. Of course, a lot choose piano. And we have great piano teachers, that's the other thing, at a School of Music. But they choose guitar and flute and viola, and so it's and we have great guitar professors too.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's really good. And then they can also do singing if they have, vocal experience as kids.
Which is great for like Broadway,
Of course. And it's just great, just to complete the artistic sort of spectrum through learning with very fine vocal teachers.
Excellent, excellent. Well, so in terms of just how the day goes, we've touched on that a little bit, but would you say, is it at most universities at 50-50? You spend half the day dancing, half the day doing academics. Is there usually a slant one way or the other?
Yeah, I think this is up to the dancer to find out, because every university is going to be slightly different. For example, North Carolina School of the Arts have a really excellent policy where, like, if you want to take the contemporary sort of road, as it were, you still have to study ballet a few times a week. And the same with the classical dancers, they have to study contemporary. So we don't quite have the facilities or the faculty to do that. But there is a contemporary dance program on campus, which isn't anything to do with the School of Music, and our dancers can take elective contemporary classes, because all dancers, everyone at the School of Music has to take elective classes, either from the School of Music roster of classes or from the campus wide.
I see. And basically, to a large degree, it depends on the dancer's plans and choices and ideas. So, well, by the way, dancers also get injured. What if you get injured mid-course? If you're in the middle of the 4 years of a dance program at a university, and what do you do then?
Well, we're also very lucky, but I think most universities tend to their injured dancers too. So because it's Indiana University, we have a huge sports facility, and in order to feed that, we have a huge, they call it athletic trainer facility. It's like one notch down from physical therapists. Mm-hmm. And so we have a volunteer who's a grad student every year who comes with 2 assistants. And it's always been a woman, but I mean, there's no reason for it not to be a man. And we have a physical therapy room, which is, she's there from 1 o'clock till 5 o'clock. She's around at all rehearsals, and if we have any performances anywhere, she always comes with 2 assistants. So we take really good care. Injuries, we have good doctors in Bloomington. If they have to, they go to Indianapolis, to the nearest big town.
Is that characteristic of all college programs, to have a really good sort of doctors available to students?
Yeah, I think, Sergey, that, since companies have become so aware of the importance of to have good physical therapists, and sometimes it's part of, the whole package with the dancer and the unions, So I think that this new generation of deans or chairs, whoever they are, whether it's Jodie Gates or Susan Jaffe, I think they're very aware through their own careers that they need to have physical therapists and they need to look after the dancers. So I think, yes, I think this is all part of the new generation of university dance programs.
Well, and this is great. So now, really, there is a focus on preventing and treating injuries, but some injuries are just, well, they happen. And if it's not possible, just physically not possible for a dancer to dance, can they still finish their degree program?
Very good question. So again, it's on a case-by-case basis, but most likely, if they're not in technique classes, then they can't get credit for, they can't get a grade for that. But they can transfer, and they can take related subjects, or we just help them. Maybe they decide that they don't want to go back to ballet or dance. So we help them transfer their credits to another course.
So any of those dance classes that they've taken, some of them maybe could be applied towards other majors?
Oh, yes, definitely. And also it depends when in the semester an injury happens. If it happens like halfway through, it's also very much up to the chair.
Right.
So if it happens halfway through and the dancer's already danced in a ballet, then I am sure they'd get a high grade. It would be, we'd forgive them. If it was right at the beginning of the semester, then that has to be case by case.
Right.
You know, and we have had people who've been out for a year with an injury, but then they've come back and then they've just had to stay another year. Yeah, they've just continued. Yeah.
Well, another question that we just had goes back to auditioning, where a parent is asking that their daughter is a freshman currently in high school, and they're interested in auditioning at the Indiana University Summer Intensive. Yes. So the question is there an advantage to auditioning now when the daughter is a freshman, or waiting until she's older and closer to the time when she would be applying for the program?
I think that is something that family will have to decide. I don't think...
But from the point of view of the professor who'll be admitting or not admitting a student, from that perspective.
Well, you know, it's always nice, you know, in ballet to watch someone progress from the age of like 13 or 14 and see how they develop over the years. I mean, it's just a pleasure as a ballet teacher.
But is there an advantage to like actually getting into the program?
There's
to audition early.
But they would still have to audition for the program itself.
Later, when it's
and we don't have auditions for the summer intensive because it's designed for people who are in high school, freshmen or sophomores, to just experience university life and experience the faculty. And we actually teach them some of our repertoire. I mean, a lot of it's under copyright, so we just teach them small sections for learning experience. So they'll also get to dance some of the ballets that we, you know, small parts of the ballets we dance, and the leading roles. And
so it sounds like it's a good idea to come just for your own experience and for you to learn some of the repertoire, but it doesn't give you any tangible advantage over other students in getting into the program once you're doing that.
No.
Okay. Another question that just came in was if a student is mid, college degree program, and they get offered a job at a company, what do they do?
Oh, it happens. And
what's your
advice?
advice?
Of course it happens. Well, normally I give them a big hug and say congratulations.
Right. But would you say wait? Would you say stick it out?
I have to say, most of the time, I see that the dancer wants to go. It's like, being a parent. The dancer has to go, has to experience the ballet company, if that's what they really want to do. But what we do is we have a very liberal policy. So, like, if they want to come back and finish their degree, if it's not too much time elapsed, then they're free to do that.
Right. And how much is too much time?
I would say more than 18 months.
So if a dancer gets a job, dances with a company, say for a year and a half, and then you'll still take them back to finish the program if they would like to do that. But after that, it all disappears. They have to start all over again.
No, but they can use the credits that they have. They just, the reason that we don't take them back into the ballet program is because the age difference will be so great between them and where they finished off. So if their class were all sophomores and they were then seniors, and they'd have to go to with people 2 years younger. At that age, you know, a couple of years makes a big difference. But we've had a number of dancers. We had a girl who went to Ballet Idaho for 6 months because they had someone with an injury, and then she came back after 6 months, and she just, you know, she was like, came back running. And we had a boy who was in Ballet Austin who wanted to come back, and so he's just done that after 1 year. So it happens quite frequently. And
great. So it also, almost every answer is just based on a case-by-case basis. A question I suspect maybe comes more from a teacher than a student. The question is, what is the best curriculum, a ballet curriculum, to teach in the 21st century? How about that?
Well, I think that the best ballet curriculum that you can teach in the 21st century is that which allows dancers to perform the repertoire of the 21st century. So that means that it has to be ballet with a forward-looking idea, because seeing how choreography is going, I mean, there's still on point. We still have very athletic in this country, wonderful lines, wonderful ideas, but there's a certain contemporary aspect of the movement which is creeping in. So I think, I mean, because I teach pure ballet, it's not contemporary in any way, but yet it's structured in such a way that enables the speed and the freedom of movement of contemporary dance to be incorporated into their technique.
I see. Well, question about research, because we again touched on that a little bit, but if you could specifically talk about what kind of research do people have to do in choosing their program? How do they decide which one is right for them?
Well, apart from going to, you mean before they come to the campuses?
Yes.
I think nowadays we're so lucky online, we so much information.
Almost too much. How do you navigate all that information?
I know, you're right. There's too many choices. I think you have to narrow it down. And I mean, I think it has to be a family decision. You have to find out how much ballet, what style of ballet is being taught, who the teachers were, what their backgrounds were, what their affiliations were, you know, with which ballet company, big, small. I think that's very important. You have to find out about the repertoire, and you have to find about the feasibility of doing whatever academics you wish to. I think that, I know we're talking about ballet, but I think that the decision of, for example, we had someone asking about a double major. So if a dancer is really interested in a certain subject, and that's what they want to pursue as well as ballet, then they have to make sure that that university offers a high enough standard in that particular subject.
I see. So you said that there is a affiliation of the teachers. Which companies have they danced with? What do they know?
Exactly.
Repertoire that the university teaches. We spoke about performing opportunities. And of course, definitely there's the academic part of it. So these are the four, are these the four criteria that people should consider? Are there more that you would say that they should look into as they choose the program?
Because out of personal experience, not with myself, but with my students, I think the geographics of the university is actually very important. You know, some people want to be in a warm climate, even at a young age, or, you know, they want to be close to their parents. So all this is, all these are factors. And now some people don't want to be further away, you know, so that's another factor, you know. So
geography is also very important.
The geographical location, and actually the beauty of the campus. That's why it's important for them to go and see it, and what the dorms are like.
Well, because this will be your home for the next 4 years. So
and 4 years is a big chunk of time when you're 18.
Absolutely, it's I'm not. How's my math? When you're 18, it's almost a quarter of your life.
Right.
Exactly. You know, that's a big part of life. You know, in fact, your first 4 years as an adult outside of your home. So this is a Big deal. Well, one question we have is, what do the weekends look like for dance majors? For example, are there classes available on the weekend because of the way the universities schedule their classes?
Well, our university, IU, is not open for classes at the weekend. So while we
and no dance classes either?
No, well, we have what we call a pre-college program. That's a school's program. So we have pre-college classes on the weekend, but we have performances over the weekend. We have Nutcracker Saturday and Sunday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, but no dance classes, not right now. But that might change in the future.
Well, maybe that's a good thing, you know. Because even just as you train your body all the time, don't you need like a day during the week to repair the body?
You definitely do, and
the mind,
and the mind. But the dancers have a lot of homework to do.
Right.
The academics. That's when they do a lot of their academics at the weekend, and then something else which is very important is that some of them like to earn money. And they do that.
That's also reality.
Yes, and it's really nice, and they get jobs in little cafes or clothes shops, and yes, so we respect that. We do sometimes have rehearsals. If we have, like we had the Robins New York Export Opus Jazz, it was very time consuming, and the dancers needed some extra time, so we had small group rehearsals on the weekend, and then they get a class for that, of course, but that's not the usual.
I see. Well, we're almost at the end of our session. Thank you, everybody who sent in your questions. We love hearing from you. So please send other questions that you have for our future sessions, and we look forward to seeing you again. Before we go, is there one? Perhaps a wish, a recommendation. Is there something that you would like to share with young dancers who are specifically interested in this topic and getting their degree at colleges and universities and continuing to dance?
Well, because I'm here because of YAGP and Larissa, so I would be very happy if I'm at a city that you are competing in, for you to come up to me or send me a note, and I'd be happy to talk to anyone, parents, teachers, dancers, about the process of studying at a university one-on-one. I'm more than happy.
And I'm sure the directors of all the other ballet programs will be just as happy
Absolutely. I know that, yes. And so don't feel that you're interrupting us, just...
And by the way, how many freshmen would you admit on a regular basis?
That's also interesting. So if we don't have a set number of places. Of course, we can't take an unwieldy amount. But if we have 20 freshmen, then 20. If we have 25 who are up to our standards, then we take 25. If we only have 16, then we take 16.
So it always varies.
Yes, it always varies.
Well, so perhaps the best advice that we've heard tonight is be proactive, educate yourself, understand what it is that you would like to do,
Definitely.
and it sounds like one of the best things also that we've heard is that don't be afraid to ask questions.
Absolutely.
Michael and everyone who heads these programs at these universities has danced, understands what being a dancer is like, and will be happy to guide you and mentor you and give you good advice. So we hope you enjoyed our session. Please keep dancing and keep sending your questions to Ask the Expert series. Have a good night.
Good night.
Michael. Good night.